They wanna tell us that they made us, stripped away our culture and enslaved us. We survived through the worst time, and they did their best to break us. We played a game, but the game rigged. Now we woke and got our own shit. Everything was all good when we was worthless. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. I got a God complex. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. It was all good when we was worthless. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. A born deity, swag of a king, extension of the most high, getting this bag for the team. Hover above all, they want me to have humility. Them same folks out here trying to suppress my ability. Spit divine words that manifest in the physical. So when I say I am money, homie, it be spiritual. Get it in this lifetime and shine in the next one. Never let nobody make you feel guilty about your blessing. Yes, I got a God complex. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. It was all good when we was worthless. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. I got a God complex. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. It was all good when we was worthless. Now they mad cause I got a God complex.
See, I am the eternal son walking the earth. Not a man, but I am that God that gave him birth. See, my womb is the gateway. I bleed every month for Ashe. I'll be damned if you tell me what I am worth. Supreme being is mother, oracle and seer. Time to go to the Egon and ask the spirits and leaders. Medicine woman, our world is really sick and need healing. So now we welcome the divine in our spirit. Ashe.
I got a God complex. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. It was all good when we was worthless. Now they mad cause I got a God complex.
Melanated, they make it so complicated, and now we separated cause they tell us we're minorities. But we the Haitians, Jamaicans, even some Latins and Asians, some Cubans and Mexicans, we are majority.
Yeah, they call us witches cause magic is what we conjuring. Took and turned our words into spells and now we under it. Some won't acknowledge our power till the apocalypse. Unleash it on the world and send them packing on rocket ships.
Yeah, heart of a lion, land of the dead and dying. My bag is about that garden, my swag about ancient knowledge and tapping into them. Message from a pendulum, ancestors saying that it's time for the world to see it.
See, they wanna be it. We got the sands of time. Our DNA filled with to medicate the mind. We demonstrate divine powers that can open portals. They fear us cause ye are gods amongst mere mortals. They wanna tell us that they made us, stripped away our culture and enslaved us. We survived through the worst time, and they did their best to break us. We played a game, but the game rigged. Now we woke and got our own shit. Everything was all good when we was worthless. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. I got a God complex. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. It was all good when we was worthless. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. I got a God complex. Now they mad cause I got a God complex. It was all good when we was worthless. Now they mad cause I got a God complex.
All right, family. Welcome to a special Freestyle Friday edition of the EtheReal Journey podcast. All right. Shout out to the Cure Music. All right, for God Complex. Dope, dope, dope. All right. I'm your brother Lumumba Uncaged. I'll be one of your hosts for this evening. I have my co-host with the most with me as well, Sister Empress She.
All right, all right.
All right. How you been? How you be? Checking in. How's everything?
Oh, listen, this is a wonderful time to be alive.
I say, give thanks. All right. Shout out to Sister Baker. Thanks for tapping in with us. Salute to the family. All right, all right. All right. Yeah, we've been rumbling, family. We've been rumbling. Um, you know, been pushing through, you know what I'm saying, different aspects of uh, you know, trials and tribulations, you know what I'm saying? But ultimately persevering, you know what I mean? So uh, you know, being tested and proven, So we had a uh situation on Tuesday, so that's why we couldn't bring y'all the regular Tuesday podcast. So had the special for today to make sure that we kept the flow and kept the momentum going. You know what I mean? Didn't want to want to maintain a certain level of consistency. So we want to make sure that we bring in, we continue to bring it. You know what I'm saying? So we wanted to make up for our other episode and make sure we didn't leave y'all without. So uh like I said, trials and tribulations, family, end up getting stuck on a road, coming from New York, stuck on the highway, car broke down, started raining, it was crazy. You know what I'm saying? We was on I-5. Luckily it wasn't too crazy and I was able to pull over to the shoulder of the road. You know, that's a whole saga, family. That's a whole saga. I'll tell y'all the whole story one day. But we just kept it pushing though, you know what I'm saying, and kept persevering. So blessings and sometimes lessons, so we take it as a lesson so we don't take it as a loss. All right. So with that being said, we here. And we appreciate everyone that could tap in for this special edition and those who will see it in the future.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. I say. Okay. And I went over today. I was doing some community work. Um, I broke out my clippers, some I'm a man of many, so one of the things that I was able to pick up, I call them tools on the boat, was the clippers, and so I went over and cut a young man's hair. He's currently dealing with the system and whatnot, and sometimes adjudicated, as it were. And it's different aspects that our children are going through, whether it be different traumas, drama, different aspects of abuse, neglect, sometimes dealing with things, mental or physical types of, um, shortcomings, you know what I'm saying? And so, this young man dealing with aspects of autism and, uh, just to be able to help to provide or be somewhat of deal with advocacy for our youth, is something that I appreciate being able to do. So I was able to hook the young man up and getting a fresh cut. You know, when you look good, you feel good. So able to help his mental state a little bit and brighten his day. So I was uh, I was pleased and grateful to be able to do that. All right, all right. So with that being said, family, We just came off of, speaking of New York. I guess I'll jump into that really quickly. We were coming from New York because we was coming from the Malcolm X ancestor El Haj Malik El Shabazz, dealing with the pilgrimage on the 19th, right? And so, we were on our way back to Philly from New York in order to, conduct a podcast and get on with the getting ons. And that's when everything kind of went down. But we did go out and go to this year's uh, 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 commemoration, right, and celebration of the life and legacy of ancestor Haj Malik El Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X. All right, and so we want to just be able to continue in that tradition, and making sure that we are honoring our ancestors. All right. So
And Brother Lumumba, let me give you a little, give the family a little backdrop on that particular commemoration, because I mean, there's a lot of Malcolm X activities that go on that day, or day before, the day after. But that particular observance is important for a lot of reasons. One, it is because Brother Malcolm X's sister, Ella, requested that people go every year to visit the gravesite at the time of his birthday. And so Professor James Small has continued that tradition based on the fact that his sister, Malcolm X's sisters, requested that this be happening. She now too is an ancestor, and so Professor Smalls was her bodyguard for many years. Did security rather for her for many years. So to continue to go to the gravesite, to pay homage, to pay respect, is kind of a multifaceted kind of thing. We should do it because of who he is, and also is an experience, particularly for those who are kind of attached or connected to the ideals of ancestors. There is a power that goes with that you're able to kind of reignite, regenerate. There's just something, there's an interaction that occurs. And so next to Brother Malcolm is, of course, Dr. Betty Shabazz, his wife, and also next to her is their grandson. Uh, and so again, it's an experience. It's not just something that you do because people oftentimes go to cemeteries to feel closer to their loved ones, but this is a community kind of affair, activity, engagement. There's prayers, there's meditation, there's also thoughts of upliftment and other kinds of things. There are people that come there every year. Some of them, a couple of them actually knew Brother Malcolm, experienced doing things with him, and have stories, have history that they share. So again, and it's folks from all walks of life. So it is indeed an experience. We attempted to take some students with us this year. Unfortunately, we didn't get the support from the community to do that. And so we're going to plan accordingly for next year and really look at taking some younger folks, some students up for the experience. And so again, we encourage folk, put it on your calendar. It happens every year, May 19th, going up to New York, and it's called the Malcolm X Pilgrimage. We used to take a caravan from Philly up. And so again, we're going to try to kind of reestablish some of the traditions that we once had. So again, put it on your calendar for next year, May 19th, Malcolm X Day.
All right, all right, all right. I say, give thanks, give thanks. With that being said, family, we're gonna jump right into the mix this evening. We're gonna mix it up a little bit, and make sure we get some good information. Got some uh, we definitely want to make sure we give our salutes and give some information on some of the works and legacies of Malcolm L. Malik El Shabazz, our great ancestor, our shining Black Prince, and also some updates as far as current events and things of that nature to keep people abreast of what is going on around the nation and also in other parts of the globe. Right. With that being said, I think we're going to start off with digging into some universal black facts. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and get this started. I'm going to share my screen and let me come to this first clip. All right. All right. In the chat. And it was hot. It was hot out there too, family as well. So
Oh wow, yeah.
it was
Woo.
quite the adventure the whole day. It was like 96 degrees, and the brothers even was feeling that it's like a guard group that you know kind of is at the helm at the proceedings, kind of in line, uh, dress line, you know, at the marker at the grave marker of our illustrious ancestor Malik El Shabazz. And usually they don all white, uh, robing and whatnot. Uh, but this year the majority of the brothers had this robe because it was just the heat was just too intense. All right, so that's what was going on. Um, but yet and still, troops came out, showed out, and the brothers were standing strong. You know, uh, got to make sure folks stay hydrated. One of the brothers was a little bit faint, and so as we get into these more humid temperatures and the heat escalates, and I just want to remind everybody to keep your electrolytes up and stay hydrated. Okay. All right, family. Let me go to this first clip and let's jump into it and let's see what we have for universal Black history and Black facts. All right, let me share my screen. 1 second. Now I knew about this brother, but I didn't know, the fullest extent of his story and other additional details. So folks might be familiar with the brother and his invention, but might not be fully aware of his full scope and story. All right, so let me give that a go. That should be popping up shortly. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that visual. All right, let's let it rock.
He was a NASA engineer helping send spacecraft to Jupiter. One night in his bathroom, he accidentally invented the best-selling water toy in history, and then he had to fight a billion-dollar company to get paid what he was owed. Have you ever heard the full story of Lonnie Johnson? Born in Mobile, Alabama in 1949, Johnson was naturally curious from childhood. By high school, he had built his own robot, named Linux, out of scrap metal. He was the only black entrant in the University of Alabama's science fair in 1968. Linux was so impressive they could not deny him first place. Despite creating an incredible robot, no one from the University of Alabama showed any interest in his academic future. He went to Tuskegee University instead. He earned a degree in mechanical engineering and a master's in nuclear engineering. Then he went to work, first on the stealth bomber program for the Air Force, then at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Johnson worked as a systems engineer for the Galileo mission to Jupiter and the Cassini mission to Saturn. Then came the accident that changed everything. One of his longtime pet projects was an environmentally friendly heat pump that used water instead of Freon. One night in 1982, he completed a prototype and tested it in his bathroom, aimed the nozzle into his bathtub, pulled the lever, and blasted a powerful stream of water straight into the tub. He looked at the stream of water and thought that would make an incredible toy. He spent 7 years shopping the idea before licensing it in 1989. The toy was an instant hit, selling 2 million units in 1991. Renamed the Super Soaker, it generated $200 million in sales and became the #1 selling toy in America. But the story doesn't end with success. In February 2013, Johnson filed a lawsuit against Hasbro after discovering he was being underpaid royalties. In November 2013, he was awarded nearly $73 million in royalties. And this is why his story matters. Johnson, who attended Tuskegee University and holds more than 100 U.S. patents, is president and founder of Johnson Research and Development Company, an Atlanta-based company focused on next-generation battery technology and solar energy conversion that could reshape how the world stores clean energy. He went from segregated Alabama to NASA missions to Jupiter. He invented the best-selling water toy on Earth by accident, and he's still working on the next thing. Follow us to uncover more hidden Black stories. Comment if you'd like to hear more about Lonnie Johnson, or the Black scientists and engineers who kept building long after the world stopped paying attention. We don't glorify injustice. We reveal truth so history can't repeat itself.
All right. Let me stop my screen share there, family. Okay. Let me come to Sister Empress. What's your thoughts on this this clip here, Sister Empress?
Oh, wow. Needless to say, it just never ceases to amaze me how our people are just incredible. We always have been, always will be, and our contributions to the world. It's just undeniable. But then again, to hear that, the brother had to fight, to get his rightful compensation. It reminds me of how we have to still continue to fight to get our rightful compensation when it comes to reparations. But he won, and so shall we.
Indeed. All right. So yes, that was a bit of information. I knew about the brother, I knew about the Super Soaker, and that great invention. I did know, somewhat of his education, but I did not know extensive, and that he actually won, after years of battle, right? But I did not know, that he went on to, establish his own business as far as the development,
right, yeah,
and being able, most likely utilizing the funds that he got from his court wins in order to continue to build better businesses. So just goes to show you, family, hard work, dedication, perseverance, right? And just having a certain level of stick-to-itiveness, right? A certain aspect of determination, of dedication, and discipline. All right. So these things do bring things to fruition. All right. So shout out to our brother Lonnie for his tremendous contributions and for his fighting fortitude.
And Brother Moon, if I may, on another note, I just want to remind folk that MWM have what we call Sister Saints. And next year, we're going to introduce 30 Sister Saints. We plan to have T-shirts and educational materials and other things that, really talk about the history, the contributions of our Sister Saints. And it just so happens tomorrow marks the anniversary of one of our Sister Saints' born day. And again, as we talk about the greatness of our people with this brother, who invented this incredible toy, for lack of a better word, but something that the children can really enjoy and have fun with. Well, Madam C.J. Walker tomorrow will mark her born day. I'm sorry, not her born day. It's actually her ancestral day. Excuse me, and it's also the 25th, not the 23rd, 25th. And so again, I wanted to highlight her, because we're coming up on that day, and as we're talking about folks that invent things, people oftentimes said, "Oh, she did some with the straightening comb." Well, actually, she did not invent the straightening comb. The straightening comb was already out there. What she did do, though, was develop her own products, and as such, trained Black women to be what she called Walker agents, and they would go door to door selling these products, hair products that was exclusively made for Black hair. Now, note, we're talking about 1918, 19, thereabouts, that she literally was making her own products, training Black women to make their own money, by the way, and have dignity and honor, and making certain that they could, take care of their families, help take care of their families, but also conduct themselves in a certain kind of manner. This was Madam C.J. Walker, and of course she built her own factory in order to produce her product. So I just wanted to remind folk that we got to get back now, not back, but more into manufacturing our own products. So we'll be talking more about that at another time.
Indeed, indeed. Give thanks for that addition, Sister Empress. And wasn't she also noted as, uh, if not the first, one of the first black women millionaires?
Absolutely, and did it on her own. I would be remiss if I did not mention the sister who trained her. You do not hear her name hardly at all, and we'll talk more about that at another time too. But Annie Malone was in fact the first one, at least prior to Madam C.J. Walker, and both of them did earn or was able to accumulate at least $1 million. Again, Annie Malone. Now, and both of them, Annie Malone had her own school where she taught what was called then beauty culture, and she made her own products as well. And she did train Madam C.J. Walker. Unfortunately, they had a split or a fallout, and then Madam C.J. Walker went and started her own. But it was Annie Malone who initially started, that kind of not only salesmanship, but capability of productivity. Again, Annie Malone created her own school. And here's something that was also very important about both of them. They gave their money to a lot of causes. I mean, a lot of causes, and they were involved. They didn't just get in money. They were literally involved. There was a silent march in I believe, New York, to focus on the lynchings that were happening at that time. And Madam C.J. Walker walked in that particular walk, in that particular kind of demonstration. So our women and men, of course, but in this case, our women, literally, those that had money, they didn't just give money to charity or, give it away, give it to help in certain causes. They literally got involved. And when you know the history of Annie Malone, she was very interesting. And again, we'll go into some of her history at another time. But you can always Google them, Annie Malone, and of course, Madam C.J. Walker.
I say. Absolutely. Triple salute to those great women. All right. And our great woman ancestors. Okay. We gotta make sure we're hailing up our women and putting some additional respect on their name. Okay. All right, understanding that we have to be able to uphold our own culture, family, right? And that which is conducive to our continuous growth and development, right? And dealing with our nature, okay? And I think a lot of the reasons why we, are undergoing a lot of hardships is because we are um, in opposition with nature. We've become so indoctrinated through this system and through this type of ideologies, philosophies, and traditions. We've gotten out of lockstep with our own, and with that, we've gotten out of sync with nature. All right, the current regime that we're in, deals with capitalism, deals with fascism, deals with imperialism, deals with colonialism, right? And these things are all take, right? Robbing, pillaging, plundering, um, and destruction. Okay, so when we alchemate to these paradigms, then we ourselves are getting out of whack, out of sync, because these things are in direct conflict and contradiction with nature. And so, but that is of their nature, right? That is what they, you know, have been able to develop with their culture. But we have to make a clear distinction on what our nature is and what our culture is, and move forward on that, based on history, family, based on legacy, based on ancestry. All right, family. So let's do our homework, right, and make sure that we are following our own leads, right, and following in the paths and traditions of our ancestors. Those that have been tried and true, family. All right. Shout out to Sister J. Renee tapping in. All right, from our YouTube live. All right, give thanks for joining us this evening. Okay, with that being said, let me jump into our next clip, and let's see what we're working with. All right, now, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Are we going to dig into someone, uh, this guy, Kevin Roberts, right? Get some background history and information, and let's see what we can discover. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Get that up and running. Let me share my screen.
And while you're doing that, Brother Lumba, and we'll come back to this after, as we go further into the segment. Just want to remind everyone, one of the other reasons why I wanted to mention Madam C.J. Walker, again, correction, her born date being May 25th. The connecting component to that for this year is what some commemorate as Memorial Day. Now, for many of us, we do not engage in these so-called horror days in the way that others do, but we do utilize them in some manner to elevate and to empower our people. We take advantage of the time period to do some things that we want to do as it pertains to liberation, not celebration of those so-called days. But anyway, this year for the 25th is the observance of Memorial Day for the U.S. I wonder how many people really know the history, though, of this particular day, because it was initially Black folks. So I just want to put that out there to you. We'll go back to that a little later on. Back to you, Brother Lumumba.
All right. Yes, indeed. Let's rock. Let's see what we can learn today.
This is Kevin Roberts. He's not a politician. He's from the state of Louisiana. He built his life's work around African American history and the kinship of Black Americans. His thesis is on the transatlantic slave trade and the kinship of African Americans. Do you know who he is? This is Kevin Roberts. This is Kevin Roberts. This is Project 2025. And I need us to connect the dots. A man who built his academic journey from his bachelor's to his master's to his PhD to studying African American history and the kinship of African Americans put together Project 2025, which means he studied us, he understood our history, and then he took that, wrote a thesis about it, and built Project 2025 to disenfranchise us. He literally used our own history against us. So what you are seeing with the rolling back of rights, targeting DEI, firing over 600,000 Black women, what you are seeing is very much so intention. The dedication it takes for you to start in the 90s of studying Black people only to disenfranchise them almost 30 years later. Matter of fact, it is 30 years later. That is the long game this man has played. Because he got his bachelor's in history in 1996. Do you know how evil you have to be to utilize racism through the study of a people that you want to disenfranchise? They're not stopping at Jim Crow. This man literally put this book together and put it online for free. Something that people thought we were fear-mongering about. He put it online for free to show his life's work. And he's using policy to push it through. I don't think people are grasping. How do you study a people just to disenfranchise them through policy? You make it your life's mission. This is only the beginning. The intention is to take us all the way back. And he did it with research. That's a next level of evil. This is Kevin Roberts.
All right, let me pause it there. Let me stop my screen share. Okay. I got one more I want to play in conjunction with that. Let me go to the comments on that. Okay. All right. It's not by accident and it's not a coincidence, family. These things are plotted, planned, and strategized. Okay. So make no mistake and be under no illusion. All right. This is very, very much intentional, for somebody to actually study, for decades, right? This is what's actually going on, and this is not something new. Actually, there's been a studying, of us even before, they decided to try to conquer, okay, just by the wonders that we were able to present, right, with different feats of technology, of architecture, of metalsmithing and so forth, art and culture and dance and, just us ourselves, our skin, our hair, just, folks are, in awe. Okay. And, unfortunately, these things, the admiration turned to envy, jealousy, and hate. Okay. Let me come to our second clip on this, because that's the one to play these back to back. All right. And just give a little bit further context. All right. And then we're going to get into a little bit of commentary. Okay. So let me share my screen one more again, family. And we're going to get a little bit more insight into. Okay. All right. Got it. Get the volume right. All right. Let me share my screen. Okay. Here we go. Share screen. Boom. There it is. Okay. And got it. Okay. So this is a secondary video. This is a follow-up, right? Just some more information and insight into this guy, Kevin Roberts. Okay. Let's check it out, family. Uh-oh. I'm not hearing the volume.
And dismantle civil rights.
There we go. Let me take it back.
I've been seeing this go around. Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, got a PhD in African American history and then used it to author Project 2025 and dismantle civil rights. Y'all know this sent me down a rabbit hole, right? Y'all want to come? Come on. I said, there's no way this man has a degree in African American history. Learn the things that he learned about African Americans, about the formerly enslaved, and come out the megalomaniac that he is today. And I saw in his Wikipedia that his degree is not in African American history. His degree is in history. Now, he has what we would call a concentration. Wikipedia says main interest in African American history. For those people with multiple degrees, you know that you can choose an area with maybe one or two disciplines. So it wasn't his main focus per se, but in looking at his Wikipedia, you know, I found his thesis and I found his dissertation. When he got his Master of Arts in History, he wrote his thesis on African Virginian extended kin, the prevalence of West African family forms among slaves in Virginia, 1740 to 1870. For his dissertation, he did Slaves and Slavery in Louisiana, the Evolution of Atlantic World Identity, 1791 to 1831. You know, I took notes. Now, in his master's thesis, he spoke about how the extended family, extended kin was a way to resist, right? He talked about the centrality of that. He spoke about the high status and influence of women. He said it was matrifocal, and that without these enslaved people being matrifocal, they wouldn't have been able to see any success when it came to freeing themselves. If you're not picking up what I'm putting down, the women, without the women, things wouldn't have changed or moved. That's what he means in this paper. He also talked about the flexible systems of descent, meaning family, right? It wasn't just everything was through the father. It was like, oh, that's my cousin them. Oh, that's auntie them. Like how extended kin played a central role in the enslaved community and how it helped them to resist. Community. He learned that community and women were key central focuses of the enslaved community that led to their freedom. Now, in his dissertation, he focused the main core argument, there were a couple of them, but the only two I want to focus on is that how enslaved people in Louisiana shaped their world by actively resisting. That's what he learned. He also learned that the enslaved used the Catholic Church, the rights of the Catholic Church, market gatherings, legal petitions to build community and push back against slavery. Let's go back to that market gatherings. To me, that sounds like a cookout. It seems like they would gather together and plan and organize, which means everybody wasn't invited to the cookout, market gathering. In order for things to get better, everybody wasn't invited to the market gathering. Now, reading these two papers and seeing how he governs as the president of Project Heritage Foundation, who pushes Project 2025, that the dichotomy of it is mind-blowing because it's like the exact opposite. Notes. Took them. So in Project 2025, they say that the traditional nuclear family is normal, but in his own goddamn research, he found that when the community is matrifocal, when the women are running it, and when there is extended kin community helping as well, they saw change. They saw revolution. Maybe that's why they forcing these traditional nuclear family norms, because they know what community can do. All right. Now, I'm not going to go over all of it. But another thing that Project 2025 purports is that DEI, they're skeptical of DEI. But in his own research, cultural agency and Black community led to resilience that is central to not African American, American history. Diversity helps drive the country forward. That's why we don't have healthcare. Nope. Different video. After going down that rabbit hole, it was never to counter what my fellow content creators were saying. It went a different route. After I read both those papers and I understand how white supremacy works, I realized that this man has researched where the power in the Black community lies. He understands that it lies with women. He has, from the 1700s at the start of his paper to the early 1800s to the late 1800s in his dissertation, he has tracked the power of Black women when it comes to liberation and how, we have been the drivers of it. So now, as a Black woman, I'm like, oh, okay. He got all the ingredients. Yeah. So I'm trying to see how he's going to try to use the organization to chip away at that power. But you can have all the ingredients. That don't ever mean you're going to taste the sauce. I've been seeing this go around. Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, got a PhD in African American history. And then.
All right. Let me stop the screen share there. Okay. All right, family. So yeah, just more extensive information. All right, on this guy Kevin Robert. Okay, let me go over to Sister Empress.
Well, needless to say, I'm so happy that we were able to really pinpoint that particular individual. But certainly this is something that has been going on with Europeans studying us. This has been going on for decades, for centuries, from medical stuff to we know about the kinds of testing that they did on our women when it came to vaginal kinds of things or reproductive kinds of things, gynecology, that was the word I was looking for. So we know that, this system has always done that. And it's so great today to really see the evidence of them still doing it. And not only still doing it, but applying what they learned for our demise. And so, at this stage of the game, we have to ask ourselves, what are we really doing? Meaning those of us who say we're woke or whatever, conscious or whatever, what are we really doing to fight back? Based on what we know they are doing, are we really doing our jobs? Are we really doing things to counter the kinds of things that they now have in place, had in place, and now have in place? And here's the other question, the stuff that they putting in place for the future. How are we preparing to address some of that? So yeah, big ups to both of those sisters for finding that information, bringing it forward. That particular plan is extensive. It is very well structured. And I dare say again, where's ours? Well, that's a rhetorical question for MWM, because come next year, we will be presenting the Black Print Agenda 30. It actually was 2530. But again, we're going to focus on the outcome of what we're looking to bring forward at the end by no later than the end of 2030. It's solution oriented with projects that have to go into effect ASAP. So again, that was both of those clips were great. Brother Lumumba, thank you so much. And again, family, if you know thyself, you also better know thy enemy.
Indeed. So, that's why it's, twofold. One, important that, we're able to have our own media, right? To be able to control our own narrative, control our own image, and get out the information that is going to be pertinent to not only our survival, but for us to move forward, to evolve, to elevate, and to thrive. Okay. And so, as those powers that be are studying us, uh, we should be studying ourselves, be more familiar with ourselves, be more in tune with our own cultures, history, and legacy, right? So it would appear as though this Caucasian gentleman understands more about our societal makeup and our cultural structures than a lot of Black people do, right? With taking on and donning on some of the Western ideologies, more specifically of the patriot, right? The patriarchy, excuse me. Okay, and knowing that our system was matriarchal, okay, predominantly, okay. And when you look even in ancient times, when you look at aspects places like Egypt, you see a balance, right? You see not independence, you see interdependence, right? You see the woman held in the high echelon in the same fashion as the men, right? King and queen, okay. And so, in understanding that the connections of mother earth, right, of womb man, okay. And so there was no misunderstandings or mistakes about this, okay. But for some reason, not for some reason, I mean, it's for good reason, we've been indoctrinated to the point to whereas which we believe um Caucasian ice is colder, right? And everything that they do is correct, and it's been beaten into us, right? So we have to that aspect of colonization has permeated our minds. So we have to go to a process of decolonizing our minds, and decolonizing our spirits, decolonizing our culture, okay, and getting back, as I was stating previously, into our natural order, right? Back into balance, back into my eye. All right, family. With that being said, let me jump into the next clip that we have for you, and let's get into some. We're going to jump into a little bit of current events. All right. Let me go to this next clip here. Let me just pull that up and share my screen. Okay, now there's been a lot of talk as of recent, as it pertains, and we did have some discourse with, we're now holding our black, we're now holding our Black Poli Sci 101 classes. All right, we had two that we've already, gone through with, and we had our brother Charles Barron to be able to drop a lot of information on us as pertains to political astuteness, okay, and some critical information, even getting into some historical elements and aspects as pertains to elections, how elections are really voted upon, more specifically the presidential election, and giving us some history on that electoral college and how things were kind of set up to disenfranchise the people. All right, not really to have a full, quote unquote, democratic type of governance. All right, dealing with the difference between the electoral college and the popular vote. Okay, so really quickly on that, for those who are not aware, the popular vote is not the vote that elects the president. All right, the people do not elect the president. The people elect the through representation, through populace. There is a number of electorates with the electoral college, and those are the ones who actually vote for the president. All right, that's the vote that actually counts and matters. Okay, so you can win the popular vote and still lose the election. Okay, i.e., Hillary Clinton. Okay, so this is very important. Civics and poli sci political science 101 family, and we have to be more astute and more aware of how these systems actually work, right? And how we can engage more so to help to benefit, our continual growth and development, right? And to be able to excel. All right. So we have to understand how these things work. All right. With that being said, we're going to jump to a little bit of the politics. All right. Now there was some recent events, as I was saying, legislation that was being passed that had to do with gerrymandering. Okay, which is the redrawing of certain district areas. Okay, and with the aspect of gerrymandering, it is redrawing the district so you can be able to manipulate the populace and manipulate the representation as far as votes are concerned. All right, so if you are able to squeeze in an additional 2,000 Europeans that are going to vote Republican, these are the type of games that are being played. All right, and unfortunately there has been some new rulings, some court decisions that are allowing some of these processes to indeed take place. All right, when you're talking about voter suppression, all right, or being able to manipulate votes, okay, so that you can make sure that your party or constituents are winning, all right, by manipulating the populace. Okay, so let me go to that story here. Let me share my screen and let's get a little bit more insight into what is going on. Okay. Now, fortunately, with this, there was some pushback. All right. And so this is, again, why it's important for us to understand the political processes and to know how we can get involved, when to get involved, where to get involved, and how to get involved to better help our families, communities, and the rebuilding of our nation.
The Supreme Court threw out lower court rulings in Mississippi and North Dakota involving racial redistricting claims under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The cases were sent back to federal district courts to reconsider them after the High Court's recent decision in Louisiana v. Calais, which raised the legal standard for challenging electoral maps. The Mississippi case involved state legislative districts that lower courts found diluted black voting power, while the North Dakota case centered on claims that Native American voters were unfairly weakened in the state's legislative map. The Calais ruling now requires stronger proof of intentional racial discrimination in redistricting cases rather than showing racial groups were incidentally split while states pursued partisan goals. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented in both cases, arguing the court still has not addressed whether private individuals can sue under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The decisions could accelerate new rounds of redistricting nationwide.
All right, let me stop my screen share there. Okay. All right, Sister Empress, what do you think? And what do you think about some of the latest, as far as legislation and these incidents with gerrymandering, and with the courts repealing some of the aspects of the Voter Rights Act?
Well, some of this stuff is just what it says. It's an act. Okay. And so if you don't know what I mean by that, family, let me elaborate a little bit. It's stage, it's theater, it's a representation. It's really an illusion. Now, it doesn't mean it's not happening. Don't get me wrong. But it is the inaction of certain types of practices and behaviors that is really designed to mislead, misguide, misdirect, in this case, misdirect. Now, for some of us, we have little to no faith or belief in the system. What I mean by that is we don't believe anything that they say. In other words, when they say that you have rights and all of that, it's not like we really believe it like that. Of course, We know that this is the ideas that is being upheld and should be, and folks should strive for it. But to believe that this is what is de facto, meaning the actual facts of the matter, no. Let me give you a perfect example as to what I mean. The mere fact that there was a voting or civil rights bill that was passed in 1964. Let me go back for a moment. Do you know that in 1870 and 1871, Congress put the Enforcement Act in place? Why? In order to protect and to, shall we say, make certain that the 13th and 14th Amendment were, to be upheld. Now, let me go back to that again. The Congressional Enforcement Acts of 1870 and 1871. Now, this is right after the so-called emancipation, right? Now, y'all know what that really was about. But just to show you, so when I hear people talk about, well, they did this for the freedmen. Yeah, okay, to some degree. And put other stuff in place that made it seem like that's what they were doing. But did they, in fact, uphold civil rights for us? Even with the darned Congressional Enforcement Act, even with all of that, we ended up with Jim Crow, all other kinds of systems that penalized us and put us in jail. So why do we keep thinking these people are going to do the right things? They're going to keep playing this game with us, and we keep falling for it. As opposed to, okay, yeah, we know we do have to do some things in the political arena. We got that part, got it. But to believe in this stuff the way people actually believe in it is absolutely ridiculous. Yes, we do have to deal with it. We do have to engage things of that nature. That's why we're doing these classes, Poli-Sci 101, Black Poli-Sci 101 that is, and Black civics, so that the more of the intricacies of what this stuff really is, not the BS and the brainwashed stuff that they told you it is. All men are created equal. We're in Philadelphia. You can go right down to Fifth and Market and see where George Washington House was, and we also had a slave house. So how can all men, they signed that stuff? How can I know. We were men and women, that's why. I mean, it's ridiculous. And we still believe, this is the part that becomes very annoying. We still believe that they're talking about us in this regard. Okay. So now they weren't talking about us before, but they're including us now, at least based on 1964. But now what are we seeing today? What part of this do we not get? They give and they take. They give and they take. They give and they take. And we think that's going to change. Don't do this to our children, y'all. Please don't do this to the next generations. Don't fill them up with this nonsense of believing that these folks actually mean that they're going to try to help us. We're dealing with a psychosis here. So with that said, I yield.
I say, thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. So, again, family, this is why it's super important for us to understand history, for us to understand the political system, the arena, how it works, how it functions, how it operates. All right. So we can know what we're dealing with, what we're working with, and what we can do, how we can strategize in order to make sure that our agendas are getting put forth and are being honored. All right. And what we can do collectively when those things aren't happening. Where we can deal with some aspects of responsibility and accountability towards elected officials, right? And Sister Empress, myself, and others are working on developing different mechanisms and different vehicles and different apparatuses, so we can be able to run our own candidates, right? That will be beholden to us, right? Going through different vetting processes. We had a wonderful meeting a few nights ago. Our brother Charles Barron was able to join us again and to join with a future political candidate, brother Jeff Jones. All right, and being able to pass on some of that knowledge and information. For those who aren't familiar with brother Barron, he was the former councilman as well as assemblyman for New York City. All right, serving for I believe like 14 years with the combination of both offices. All right, and be able to do engage phenomenally with the political system, get things pushed forward, recognizing and realizing how to get different things accomplished. All right. Was able to get millions of dollars poured into Black communities, was able to have a housing development constructed, revitalizing playgrounds and things of this nature. So it's not a blight, and it's actually a safe place for children to be able to operate and and to be able to commune. All right, so he was able to show and prove, and then once he had that experience, he has that experience currently, and is able to pass on some of that wisdom, some of that knowledge, information, and experience to future generations. All right, this also acts as checks and balances, right? And so now brother Jeff has big brother Barron. You know what I'm saying? So we're able to keep things a little bit more even, kill a little more balance, because folks know that, hey, you have folks who are willing to train and back you, but you have to keep in line with the parameters, all right, and making sure that we're staying in lockstep with this type of history and type of tradition of the political arena.
And also keep in mind, family, just for point of clarity, when we're talking about being involved more politically, we are focusing on primarily the local levels, our communities. This is where you can do some things. The bar is a little different, the interaction is a little different. And note, we're using the parties as opposed to the parties using us, meaning we develop a strategy, we develop an agenda, and then run our own candidates and use our own money to get them in and so forth. So they're not beholding to the party. This is all a process, and this all takes intelligence, commitment, and courage. Lastly, we want to remind everyone that starting on Monday, we literally will begin to register our own delegates. Now, this particular delegate component is geared to meeting next year in March. 19. It's a commemoration of 1974 or 72. I got to go back to that. But and next year will be the 55th year anniversary of the National Black Political Convention that took place in Gary, Indiana. So we're planning to meet next year, starting in March. We're going to do it the whole year, but starting in March, we plan to kick it off in Gary, Indiana. And with this, we have points that we look to accomplish. One being a national Black political agenda. We got to come out of the next year with a comprehensive national. Now, there's going to also be a focus on local Black political agendas. That's why you need delegates from your particular city, your particular state, because conversations will be focusing on the specifics of the various city states. But the focus is really about the national. So we will literally vote on certain things that we want to see coming out of on a national level. But you take it back to your community and apply it also in your local arenas where it is appropriate or where it is applicable. So again, starting on Monday, we will begin registering delegates for the National Black Political Convention 55 observance, which, by the way, will begin to put in place to a greater extent what we call Black Communities United and other components to have a comprehensive Black United Front. Now, we talked about Brother Malcolm earlier. That was one of the last teachings that he gave us, that we should have a united Black front that deals with the political ideology of Black nationalism, and now today what we call Black internationalism. So what does that mean for us? That means, because, like, when you talk about democracy or socialism or whatever, these are schools of thought, and they're also applications of dealing with politics, economics, and other things relevant to social, political justice, and so forth. So what is our philosophy and methodology? Brother Malcolm said to us we should embrace Black nationalism as a political tool, which means we control, operate, etc., our own stuff. That's what it comes down to from a political standpoint. Now, for folks who are not ready for this at 2026, 2027, they need to just go ahead, go home, sit down, watch The Housewives or some stuff, but just get out the freaking way. It has been over 60 years that we was told this stuff. And if people want to hem and haw now, well, good luck with that, because we're moving forward.
I say, thank you for that. This is Sister Empress. And welcome aboard the EtheReal to our elder, Chief Elder Minister. All right. And thank you for joining us this evening. How you feeling? We have a special guest correspondence. All right. How you feeling this evening, Chief Elder? You are unmute. You have to unmute yourself. I think I might be able to unmute you as well. All right, all right. Okay, there you go. How you making out, Chief Elder? Okay. All right, you might not be with us. All right. Okay. So see if Chief Elder comes back. I'll try to hit him in the chat. All right. With that being said, let me keep it moving. Thank you for that addition once again, Sister Empress. All right. We got to make sure that we are stepping our game up, family, being able to continue to move forward, to make sure we are more efficient and effective. Okay. All right. With that being said, let me come to our next clip, family. And this is just some of the things that have been coming down the pike. All right. And we have to make sure, we have to ensure that we, stay abreast and stay aware. All right. So we can be able to fight and combat where and when we can. Okay. Let me drop this next clip, and let me go ahead and share my screen. There it is right here. Okay. Now this is another piece of current events. Let me go ahead and share. Okay. This is, because we're going to be, we got a few stories talking about, some of the monies, right, that's being moved around, family. And we really have to pay close attention, as they say, when you really want to get to the bottom of things that are happening, 9 times out of 10, you want to follow the money. All right. That's really going to indicate who's who and what's what. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen real quick, family. And let's hear some other things that are going on within the political offices. All right, namely what's happening with Agent Orange, all right, aka MAGA Trump. All right.
A proposal right now to use taxpayer money to fund security upgrades for the White House, including the president's new ballroom, is now hitting a snag. The Senate parliamentarian says that funding for the project is too large and complex to be part of a narrow GOP budget bill. Senate Republicans met with the parliamentarian late last week to discuss if the funding was allowed under budget rules. Republicans hope to include the funding as part of a bill to fund immigration agencies for the next 3 years.
Right. So, let me see if I can pull the exact stats, but it was somewhere in the billions of dollars, family. All right, that was being proposed in order to build this grand Trump ballroom. Okay, and for a while, it was looking like it was going to get pushed through. Okay, and fortunately, you had some pushbacks that we're seeing currently, but this is the type of shenanigans that is and has been going on in the White House and across the board as it pertains to the current office holding. The current legislation that's being pushed and the current cabinet. Okay. So this is just one of many things that has been going on under the radars, right? I was reading a report recently about, this being the only sitting president who simultaneously, while holding the highest office, is also conducting major business. Okay, so I believe his net worth has 10x'd since he's been in the White House, because he's been simultaneously brokering deals while seated in office, okay, as a commander-in-chief. All right, so the politics are that which is most in line with his business accoutrements and decisions and implementations, not what is the best for the quote-unquote country or the American people. I heard him saying in an interview, when we talked about the rising cost of the war, he was saying, the question was posed, well, what about the rising costs, the effects on the Americans, purse strings and the difficulties economically. And he very plainly stated, I don't care anything about that. I care nothing about that. His claim to fame, he was stating that he only cares about making sure that Iran does not have nuclear capabilities. Okay? Came right out and said the quiet part out loud. Okay? And people, for whatever reason, are still under delusions and illusions of grandeur. Okay? So this is what's really going on, and this is how politics really works. Okay? This is the inner workings of how things really operate. All right? Quid pro quo, etc. All right, family. So recognize and realize, okay, we got to understand how the game is played so we can make sure that we are on the winning end. All right, let me come to Sister Empress. What say you on this aspect of things?
Well, again, this year marks the 250-year commemoration of this place formally, officially being put in place. And so, at this stage of the game, surely we must know that we have no power, at least not in the context of being able to address any of this stuff. This person, Trump, is showing folk clearly, this guy is like a gangster. It's like, what you gonna do? What are we gonna do? And he put it right in our faces just to let us know that what you gonna do? Talk? You ain't gonna do nothing. You can't do nothing. This is their system. This is what I'm saying about people believing that you're actually a key component when it comes to, things actually, happening in the context of it helping us. For real, for real. We're in it, yes, and they use our energy, they use our intelligence, they use our, other kinds of aspects of our being, yes. But for that to be placed in a manner that really is going to help us as a people, and don't get me wrong, it'll be a few that will benefit because that's the nature of the game. Because they're going to always be able to show, oh yeah, you see, Joe over here, he's doing real well, or Sally Mae or Heather. There's not many black women called Heather, but anyway, she's doing real well too. So they're going to always be able to show, that some black folks are doing, at least appear to be doing okay. But the majority, and I mean the vast majority, that's a whole nother story. So, again, when I hear these stories, Brother Moon, I'm like, yeah, what else is new? It's just that this dude is bolder, more aggressive, but the other ones did it too. They just did it behind closed doors or without you knowing it, right? This dude don't care. That's where we're at with it now. He just don't care. And again, even, if you didn't know or do know, what does that mean in real time? What can we actually do? What representatives do we have? What power bases do we have to address any of this? We'll chit and chat and talk and all that stuff, and that's cool. It's cool because that helps, at least, for us to become more aware and things of that nature. But when it comes to actually applying a level of, counterpunch, what? So, family, I'm just saying again, we gotta be a little smarter and start developing better allies, etc., etc. So again, my final thought on that is, okay, another day. Are you
Another dollar, family?
right?
So, but again, emphasize these things as Sister Empress was indicating, to make sure folks are more abreast and aware of this. Right, this stuff is used to be kind of done covertly, done behind closed doors, done with a handshake and a wink, right? And now we're seeing these things. The veil has come down. The veil has been lifted. Okay, so we can clearly see the emperor has no clothes. Okay, and so now folks hopefully can wake up, can rise up, and begin to organize in such a fashion so that we can resist and ultimately be successful. All right, with being able to push forth revolutionary change. All right, and that is complete positive change. All right. So again, why it's so important for us to develop political strategies, such as the National Black Political Agenda, such as being able to develop our own PACs and super PACs, such as being able to develop our own political parties, right, with underlining platform issues. Why it's important for us to know the different aspects and angles of legislation, pertaining to things such as reparations, international law, human rights declarations, and so forth, family. All right. So we can be as astute and as well armed as possible to fight in these battles and so that we may win. All right, family. So this is why we want to make sure that people are educated in the fashion of being empowered, all right, utilizing what is being learned to better our situations. All right. Okay. With that being said, let me come to a side clip. And the sister did mention and point out, and we're going to be Because that's the train we going down. So you right on it, Sister Baker, with another aspect of in Trump news, right? When we talking about this $1 billion settlement, or what some has described as a slush fund that is being developed by the Trump regime. All right, before I'm gonna jump into that in a hot second, I just want to play this other video clip, and this just kind of gives another perspective and summation of how blacks are being disenfranchised or taken advantage of as it pertains to political involvement. All right, let's check out this clip, and then we'll come back for some commentary, family. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And I saw this gentleman from time to time, and he usually speaks on black issues, which I find very, very interesting, as it appears he is of Middle Eastern background and lineage. All right, let's take a listen.
Of the real situation that you're in. White Americans are a demographically contracting minority globally, and they are attached to an economically contracting empire, which is the building that you're in. That's the building that you are in. That's the project that you are being asked to attach yourself and your children and your grandchildren's future to. And I'm asking you, or I'm asking you to ask yourself, what does American citizenship actually mean in 2026, structurally? Okay, if you're African American, I've said this before, if your American citizenship means accepting marginalized status inside a country that is itself becoming marginalized, becoming a marginalized fragment of humanity. You understand me? It's a minority position twice over. You're a minority within a population that is itself becoming a minority of a contracting empire. That's the deal that's being offered to you with Americanism by both parties. That their deal is stay loyal to this declining project, accept your subordinate position inside this declining project, perform a civic ritual every 2 years, every 4 years, and in exchange for that, we will give you some level of cultural recognition and maybe occasionally some symbolic concession that you can celebrate about. That's the deal that's on the table. That's what it is. Well, your grandmother didn't march for that deal. Nobody marches for a deal like that. That's the kind of a deal that you march against. You understand me? No, you need to reframe. You need to reframe what her principles look like in 2026. Dignity, representation, citizenship, participation, right? So what do those words mean now, today, when you take them seriously and you apply them to the world as it actually is in this day and age, today? Dignity, for example, in my opinion, dignity should mean refusing to let yourself be defined by your relationship or your connection to a contracting empire that never planned to make you a full participant in the first place. It means seeing yourself in your actual scale. In other words, as part of a global black and brown majority of humanity, not as a domestic minority pleading for inclusion in a shrinking minority's house. And representation, in my opinion, real representation should mean having a presence at those layers of power that actually decide things, not the political layer that pretends to be making decisions that are actually being dictated to them by the private sector. No, the ownership layer I'm talking about, the ownership layer, the institution building layer, the capital formation layer. You understand? SubhanAllah, Black America has produced extraordinary cultural and intellectual capital for over 100 years, and they have watched endlessly other people accumulate the financial returns from that capital, that cultural creative capital. So the question is whether or not you're going to spend the next 100 years, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren are going to spend the next 100 years trying to demand inclusion in someone else's structures rather than building your own structures with international partners who are not contracting like the American empire is, but who are expanding. Citizenship should mean full standing in a project that's worth being a citizen of. You understand me? The question isn't whether or not you are a good American or you can be a good American or be accepted as a good American. The question is whether America itself is even a good project to belong to in the first place. Whether it's a project whose current trajectory even deserves your moral or political loyalty. You understand? These are questions you are allowed to ask, by the way. You're allowed to ask that. Your grandmother asked much more difficult questions than that. Participation means action that actually moves the world, that actually has consequences in the real world. And voting in a system where Black support actually decreases the chance of legislation passing, that's not participation, that's pacification. It's pacification. Real participation is organizing material power, real power, building institutions, forming relationships across the global South, across the world, where Black Americans have natural civilizational kin. In Africa, the African continent, subhanAllah, the African continent is roughly 1.4 billion people, and they're projected to be 1 in 4 of every human being on the face of the earth by the year 2050. And then you add to that the Black diaspora globally, that's hundreds of millions more people. No, African Americans, you are not a domestic American minority. Your people are a global supermajority of the world's future. And the framing that has trapped you inside a perpetual harm reduction calculation, this, in my opinion, is the greatest scam that was ever committed against you, that you fell for. So when you stand at that ballot box and you tell yourself that you are honoring your grandmother by casting your vote, no, I'm sorry. What you're doing actually in that voting booth is accepting a role. You're accepting a role, and your role is to stay small, stay domestic, stay inside the framework. You understand? Stay loyal to this dissolving empire that has never, ever one time repaid your loyalty. Not once. Your grandmother didn't march for that role. She marched against a role like that, in my opinion. The question for you is whether you have the imagination, the political imagination in 2026 to march against that again, to march against that role again, not by your voting, but by recognizing that the building that you have been trying to gain full citizenship in, full recognition inside of, that building is falling apart in chunks. And the people who actually own that building are not even on the ballot to begin with. And the people who own that building are, in fact, themselves the ones who are demolishing that building while you're stuck inside of it. Please understand me. Meanwhile, they, the owners of that building, they are the ones who are building relationships with the global South. They're jumping ship. I'm telling you, they ran that ship, America, they ran that ship into an iceberg, and now they're asking you to vote on what the band should play while you sink. That's all your voting is. And one more thing, I want to say one more thing, because she said something that needs to be addressed. She said, don't tell me about some Islamic civilization 100 years from now. As if Islamic civilization is a fantasy I'm talking about. It's like it's a future.
All right, let me stop the screen share there, family. Let me stop the screen share there. All right. So the gentleman said a lot. Okay, he said a mouthful. All right. Let me come to Sister Empress. What do you think about this discourse?
Oh yeah, I mean I've heard him before, on numerous occasions as well, and it's really kind of interesting because when you look at the so-called leadership that we have today amongst our people, it just appears that he got more on the ball than they do. Yeah. I mean, he's literally saying things that we say on the grassroots level, but the folks who are supposed to be more learned and more in position and so forth, they ain't talking that kind of stuff, particularly as it pertains to us having our own and aligning ourselves with those other, having other allies and things of that nature. You'll hear it briefly or indirectly or in some manner that just kind of fits the moment, but no plan, no intent, things of that nature. So yeah, it's really unfortunate that we have to have someone to speak truth to power on our behalf. And again, I mean, that's what allies do. They do those kinds of things. This is what it's about. But again, we have to ask ourselves, and particularly Black women, what black woman you hear out here talking about on a national level, or in a forum or format that reaches, thousands, millions of people? Where's the black women at? That's a rhetorical question, of course, but it's applicable to all of our people, to all of us. This is why, again, to have our own now black political convention, we need to say who our representatives are, and stop allowing other people to put in position people that they want us to believe are our representatives. But again, going back to the presenter that just provided, great information. It just says, we got to step our game up.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and some of these talking points, I'm familiar with. I've heard echoed from some of our black scholars. Some of our previous scholars. Some of our master teachers. But I find it interesting, though, on another level, that in a lot of cases, our people will give an ear more so to a gentleman like this than they will to people like us, and to our own scholars and master teachers, right? So sometimes I throw other things in the mix, just because, for whatever, understanding some of our psychology, for whatever reason, when we hear it from other people, then it seems to more so ring a bell, like, oh man, wow, yeah, he's right. I mean, but again, and I'm glad, like you said, in some of the aspects of allyship, or being able to speak truth to power. But just also, again, very interesting that we don't we don't have the same type of, we don't hold the same type of value, or appreciation for our own folks when we're putting this information out or sharing this information. We don't we're not pushed in the same manner, as far as a platform, sharing the information, so on and so forth, right? But this gentleman probably has let me oh, this is actually a comment, this is a reaction video, but I'm sure the gentleman has probably hundreds of thousands of subscribers, right, to his channel, and so forth.
Yeah,
So
yeah, he does. He does.
I just wanted to point out that factor, that when others come with this information, I've heard it on a few different variations, with Tim Wise and other European folks that come in and deliver certain information, and I see it, getting being received very well, okay, amongst the populace of black folks, individuals, but I don't see the same type of support when it comes to supporting us, our folks, that's putting out similar same information, or sometimes even more in-depth information, all right, and have been doing so for a longer period of time. I just want to point that out, though, but great information, and something for us to really think about and consider. Okay, how we're being duped, how we're being not only used but abused. Okay, and taken advantage of, as ancestor Alhaj Malik El Shabazz would say, hoodwinked, bamboozled, and yes, led astray. All right, family. So hopefully, folks, once again, are waking the hell up. Okay. With that being said, let me come to our next clip. All right. Let's see if there's any comments. All right. My apologies for the folks on Facebook. I'll try to get there shortly. But I'll be multitasking, and I'm gonna try to get over there to see if there's any comments there as well. All right, let me go ahead. In the interim, I'm going to jump in and play this next clip. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into it here. Let me share my screen. Let me pull that up. Here we go. And this young lady I do follow pretty regularly. She has some dynamite information, mainly as it pertains to business, but she does get into current events as well. All right. So this is Sister Kazia. All right, let me go ahead and is that sharing? Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me share my screen, and we're gonna get into what Sister Baker was touching on a little bit earlier with this quote unquote slush fund. All right, let's jump into it, family. Let's see what we're working with.
A reparations fund.
But this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated.
And guess who wasn't included again? Black people! $1.776 billion is going into the Truth and Justice Commission. After Trump, your president, sued the IRS and reached a settlement for $1.776 billion. Funded entirely by your tax dollars, that number was not selected at random. 1776, the year that this country was built on the backs of our ancestors. So here's what happened. Trump sued the IRS for $10 billion because a former contractor leaked his tax returns. The problem was he was demanding pay from the very agency that he oversees. So he sued in his personal capacity, and this Obama-appointed judge said not so fast. But instead of dropping the case, the Department of Justice spent months trying to figure out how to legally compensate your president. And when they could not, the Attorney General reached a settlement where a 5-person commission. Since Trump can't personally be compensated, guess who can? His business entity, his youngest sons and his daughters, and over 1,600 January 6 rioters, allegedly. So let me tell you about HR 40. Because surely they got reparations for Black people, right, Representative Ayala? But no, baby, because Congress won't even pass a bill to study reparations, much less pay them. But they found $1.776 billion to fund those folks who attack the American democracy. Do not ever let anybody tell you that reparations is too expensive. They just proved it was always a choice. Trump just created a reparations fund.
But this is...
Let me stop my screen share there. Let me stop it right there, family. All right, but wait, there is more. All right, let me come with that more. Let me come with the more, okay? Because I have a few clips on this. I just want to combine them together so we can get a full scope and perspective on what the goings on is. All right. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. We'll get into the second clip. I have yet a third clip, because we want to, we like to hit it from all sides, all angles, family, so we can get the full scope and perspective. Let me go ahead and refresh real quick.
New fund that was announced today, $1.7 billion. Yeah. Why should taxpayers pay for the January?
Well, but this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated. It's anti-weaponization. They've been weaponized, and they worked on it. I know the Justice Department has really been working on it very hard. There's been numerous other occasions over the years where things like this have been done, but these were people that were weaponized and really treated brutally by a system that was so corrupt, with corrupt people running it. And they're getting reimbursed for their legal fees and the other things that they had to suffer.
Black Americans have never received federal reparations for slavery. Not for Jim Crow, not for stolen labor, not for redlining, not for Black Wall Street being burned to the ground. Nothing. But do you know who did get paid? Enslavers. Under the D.C. Compensated Emancipation Act, slave owners were paid up to $300 per enslaved person for the loss of their human property. The people who were enslaved got nothing. Then Black people built anyway. They built communities like Greenwood, Black Wall Street, and America let white mobs destroy it. Now fast forward. Trump's administration has created a nearly $1.776 billion fund that could allow Trump allies and January 6th insurrectionists to apply for payouts and apologies. So let me get this straight. Black people can survive centuries of government-backed oppression and be told reparations are unrealistic. But insurrectionists may get taxpayer-funded compensation? Y'all really got us fucked up. America always finds money when it wants to. Just never for the people it actually owes.
The Justice Department has this new fund that was announced today, $1.7.
All right. Let me stop my screen share there. I got one more for y'all, because again, you want to hit it from all angles, all sides, and make sure we get in the full scope. All right, so shout out to my brother Jay Cerrone. all right, for hitting us with additional information as it pertains to the situation. Let me go ahead and share my screen one more again. Okay, share that screen. Boom, here it is. All right, now let's hear this other hot take on what is going on with this reparations, quote unquote, fund or slush fund, as some are describing it.
Of a $1.776 billion fund to make payments to individuals, including January 6 insurrectionists who say they were wrongly targeted.
This is simply a slush fund to pay a criminal enforcement arm, a violent arm of Trump supporters to intimidate people. This is simply a slush fund. This is simply a...
Oh, you lied to me. You lied to me.
You just got to read the first paragraph to realize it's not what the media spun it to be. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche says the machinery of government should never be weaponized against any American. It is this department's intention to make right the wrongs that were previously done while ensuring this never happens again. The fund will have the power to issue formal apologies and monetary relief owed to claimants. This is where it gets real. There are no partisan requirements to file a claim. They made it seem like it was just for Republican insurrectionists for the January 6th riots. It's for anybody that could substantiate a claim for political retaliation, regardless of whether Democrat, Republican, or independent like myself. But the crazy part is Obama did it first. The Keep Siegel case. The Obama administration created a $760 million fund to redress various claims alleging racism against the federal government over a period of decades. It's very difficult to sue even state or federal government. Like, I think you can't even sue the federal government without their permission, if I recall correctly, which is crazy, right? So basically, it's given permission. Under these circumstances, if you went through something that you feel like is what Trump went through, but it's nonpartisan, December 1st, 2028 is a deadline. Any of the bread after that goes back to the government, whereas with Obama's, they set up a committee basically to just distribute it to NGOs, even if they didn't file a claim. It's like, oh, they deserve it. They deserve it. We know they got drawn on. You know what I'm saying? I don't know all the details yet. But even going back, like, you know, we got people in the city, in Philly, that have been retaliated against. Get your bread out of that 1.776 if you can establish and have proof that you were targeted.
Only thing gonna take that pain away is if you get racks. Forever get my lick back.
All right. Let me stop.
Justice
Department. There. Okay, with that being said, let me come back over to the family. All right, Sister Empress, what is your take on this?
Oh my gosh. Woo!
I tell you what.
Wow. You know, again, I don't even know where to begin on that one. I'm going to save that discourse for tomorrow night's New Day to go more in depth. But I will say this about that. Again, we are seeing right before our eyes what they do. They usually disguise it a little better intentionally, but the bottom line is still the bottom line. Now, note, and I sent you this report earlier, Brother Lumumba. So the guy who was known as one of the Proud Boys, who was a part of the so-called January 6th event or whatever that thing was, he has made a statement to PBS of all people, all entities, indicating that he feels he from that fund that they're now setting up or attempting to set up, he feels he deserves millions from it. And he also suggests that those that get it should run for political office. Use some of that money to run for political offices. So we see right before our eyes a plan that is about to unfold. Whether they pass this thing or not, there's a plan in place, best believe. And so we're just beginning to see some of it. And keep in mind, y'all, we have 2 more years of this very candid, very blatant kinds of things. They'll go back to the more subtleties later, but for right now, it is all the way live. And again, what are we doing? What are our plans of action? Tune in tomorrow night to New Day Resurrection Liberation, because we're beginning to organize our communities first. See, usually the stuff comes from up and then goes down. That ain't how to do it. We ain't doing that like that now. We're grassroots doing it on that level and raising it up. So again, we are in for some very interesting kinds of things. That particular clip there clearly showed it. They have money to create something of compensation, I'll put it that way, for people who supposedly were harmed a couple of years ago. But they can't find the rightful money for us. And then what we going to do about it? I yield.
Indeed, family. So, these are some of the things that we have to make sure that we're aware and astute of, and again, see how these things function, how they operate, how they're being utilized, so we can utilize these different strategies, techniques, and so forth to our best advantage. All right, taking full positive advantage of the understandings of how these things really function and operate. And so I was glad that Brother Jason Rohn was able to give us another aspect, another perspective. And of course, we're going to dig and do some more due diligence and research on how individuals can be able to tap into some of these funds if it is indeed passed. Okay. Well, I mean, it looks like like there is some monies that has been awarded, but they're pushing back at the same time. I've seen in recent being able to push back on the fact that folks are not the fact that taxpayers will be footing the bill for this quote unquote slush fund. So there is pushback on it, legislatively as well, with some of the other elected officials, including some Republicans. So there is some dissension amongst the ranks. All right. So we'll keep you abreast as things continue to develop on that. But I'm definitely interested. Sister Baker put in political prisoners. Such we're looking at such examples as well as the MOVE genocide and the MOVE bombing here in Philadelphia. So that that may fall underneath that jurisdiction as well. Again, we have to make sure we learn these processes and the underlying elements that are involved, so we can take once again full positive advantage. All right, as the brother indicated, it is not just, even though they try to frame it in that way. That's why it's very important to dig in and do the homework. It seemed like it was framed in such a way as these funds were solely going to be allocated to MAGA, January Sixers, and so on and so forth. But that is a guise to make sure that other folks don't try to tap into these funds, allegedly. Okay, so we're going to again dig in further into that and make sure that we can get to the bottom of things and understand how those people, as was stated by our previous videos, those who have been undergone some of the worst type of injustices known to the planet, known in recent written history, documented history. All right, as was also echoed by the March 25th declaration from the African Union that was introduced by the Ghanaian representative and put forth on the UN floor, which got a resounding approval, and with the 123 countries agreeing that the transatlantic slave trade was one of the worst atrocities, actually the gravest, they called it, atrocities known to mankind. All right, so with these facts, with this history, we definitely should be in position to be able to take advantage of such funds as it pertains to being politically disenfranchised. All right, so let's make sure that we act like we know, family, get organized around these issues, so we can make sure we get an adequate piece of the pie. I mean, we need that whole thing. Okay, we need the whole thing. But again, we'll keep you abreast as things continue to develop with this story. All right, family. With that being said, let's jump into our next clip. All right, I want to share now. I want to get into some history, family. We want to get into some of the perhaps known and lesser known different speech and lessons from our Nwalimu, our great Nwalimu ancestor, Malcolm El Haj Malik El Shabazz. All right, so let's go to some golden clips. All right, and let me share with you all. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and let's get into it, family. All right. Okay, let me share my screen here. Now, as ancestor Malcolm El Haj Malik El Shabazz has told us, we need to make sure we are taking our case beyond the jurisdiction of just the U.S., but being able to take it to the international courts and dealing with aspects of human rights and not just focusing on civil rights. Let's take a listen.
Number one, of the black man in America is beyond America's ability to solve. It's a human problem, not an American problem or a Negro problem. And as a human problem or a world problem, we feel that it should be taken out of the jurisdiction of the United States government and the United States courts and taken into the United Nations in the same manner that the problems of the black man in South Africa, Angola, and other parts of the world, and even the way they're trying to bring the problems of the Jews in Russia into the United Nations because of violation of human rights. We believe that our problem is one not a violation of civil rights, but a violation of human rights. Not only are we denied the right to be a citizen in the United States, we're denied the right to be a human being.
All right. So eloquently spoken. All right. As our shining black prince is known for. Okay. All right, family. Let me jump into our next clip. Let me come to Sister Empress for any additions on that before I begin to move forward.
Well, many know by now that We Charge Genocide 21 movement and National Black Human Rights Project has been in effect for 10 years. And we have been working diligently, consistently on many levels. And now to be at this stage of it, we've made some major advances. And we want to remind everyone that on August the 23rd, we asked folks to meet us in New York. We plan to have a major music concert and arts and cultures festival. It will be the day of the International Day of Remembrance of Slavery and its abolishment. And we will also give a special salute to the 123 countries that did in fact vote. United Nations member countries that did in fact vote in that regard of representing and declaring the transatlantic slave trade as being the most gravest crime against humanity. Now, the other thing that you will hear us now talk about is how we are going to engage with one another for the future. Right now, there's a lot of heat and other kinds of energies going out, particularly in social media, that puts us in conflict with one another. And I'm referring to the various groups and organizations that are talking about repair, reparations, but also are talking about some other related issues as it pertains to likes and dislikes of our people. And I'm talking about amongst one another. And so this has not been a conversation that I have brought about for various reasons, because I know both folks in both camps or in several camps, but the time has come for there to be not only more discussion about this, but how we're going to deal with it, how we're going to resolve, how we're going to heal. So tomorrow night, you'll also hear us talk more about an initiative that our sisters are going to have. We have several locations that we're going to do this in, including New York, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., so that Black women will be able to come together, African women, Caribbean women, whichever name you prefer. But you know, if you're highly melanated, that's who we're talking about. And you ain't calling yourself white. Anyway, and so tomorrow we will let you know of our first preliminary sessions. These will be in our communities. It'll be accessible to any of our people that are interested, but it will be the women who will focus on the issues of this anti-Black, anti-this and that amongst ourselves. Why? And what are we going to do about it? So those sessions are going to be starting soon. We're going to talk more about it tomorrow. Now, going back to this particular situation, again, we have to be very clear about what our moves are going to be now. And again, there's no one way to do things. I'm going to say that. There's no one way. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody has all the, insights. Therefore, we have to look at what we can support with whom and make that clear. But also we need to move forward in a more intelligent kind of manner. And I'm not talking about punking up. I'm talking about being just a lot more strategic. Anyway, we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But again, Brother Malcolm's spirit lives on. We are, in fact, the ones who will be bringing forward his legacies. We're part of that kind of energy, that kind of synergy. And so with the We Trust Genocide 21, we do have the Malcolm X Legacy Collective. And our primarily our focuses are, again, as just indicated, Black human rights. That is one of our primary focuses with the We Trust Genocide as it pertains to Brother Malcolm. There's a few others. And again, with that, the human rights piece, he did it 60 years ago. I mean, this is really crazy that we are here today just kind of acting like we understand this. But again, join us August 23rd. Make your way to New York. We're going to commemorate one another. Those of us who have been fighting for reparations or repair, as we call it, our ancestors that certainly stood and fought for us. We're going to also give a roll call to brothers and sisters in the music and entertainment industries who use their art and craft to fight for our justice and freedom. We're going to do an honor roll call for them. But again, we're bringing artists together from all genres. So if you're interested in being a performer, a presenter, because there's also going to be a summit that week, you need to get with us now, because we're getting ready to close some of this off, at least for the August 23rd piece. And Brother Lumumba will give you contact information, because our next session for Ubuntu, and that is the name of this particular project, it is coming up on Sunday. Back to you.
Indeed. All right. So let me come to our next clip, family. All right. Just want to make sure. And this episode is called "The Ballot and the Bullet," echoes of our ancestor Mwalimu Malcolm X. All right. So we want to make sure that we are continuing to delve into his works, right, and see what is our responsibilities within upholding that legacy and being able to take up some of the aspects of that mantle. All right, so let's give more tribute to our shining black prince, Brother Malcolm El Haj Malik El Shabazz. All right, let me share my screen here, family. Share my screen. Here we go.
Front Page Challenge welcomes the outspoken Negro leader, Malcolm X.
Sir, what's the real reason why you two men split? Is it merely ideological, or is it personality? What else?
Probably personality. It was not the statement that originally.
Oh, my apologies. That was the incorrect clip. Let me bring it back really quickly. My apologies, family. And
while you're doing that, Brother Mumba, let me just add to folks so that they know We Charge Genocide 21 membership is now in effect. You can become a support member or an active member. And from the We Charge Genocide 21, we are developing a society within that unit, within that entity, because as we proceed, we have to move forward in an organized manner to begin to represent a certain type of civic body. Our intention is ultimately to develop an independent entity. Some say nation, some say state, etc. But the idea is to, at some point, the protracted struggle is to provide a pro tem sort of government that will enable us to, a transitional sort of government that will enable us to advance. Now, we know that for some, reparations is a family focus, and we encourage folk to do that. In fact, at some point, we will assist in some way for families, those who are members of We Charge Genocide. We'll be providing them with genealogy information and other kinds of things that they need to research their family lineage, their family history. But we're also focusing on the collective as a society, as a nation. And so our work is now, developing in that manner. Lastly, our projection is 2030. And by 2030, we plan to be ready to go to Geneva, Switzerland. The World Court is in Geneva. And so we want to be able to present our positions as well as demands, because again, by having now allies, it will enable us to get some things done. And we'll be giving you some reports as we proceed in talking with some of the ally countries that we're developing relationships with now. Because again, the conversation at some point has to be some of the countries we do know at some point in time were in fact involved or allowed the slave trade. I mean, there's no getting around this. And so we have to now deal with that reality for some, and also look to see how we need to move forward. So we are very proactive in what we're doing. We're very, transparent for the most part. And we are, here's the key thing. We are solution oriented. We're not trying to negate anything. We're not trying to push anything under the rug. But we do need to proceed with caution, because we don't want to get our enemies, more to work with.
Indeed. All right. Thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. All right. Let me come back. I'm actually just going to play a couple of shorts, and just to kind of get a full scope of some of the language, some of the astuteness, some of the brilliance of our late great Black Prince, ancestor El Hazmalik El Shabazz. All right, let me go ahead, open this up, and let me share my screen. Okay, here it is. All right, let me share my screen. Boom. Here it is. Right here. Okay, here it is.
When Black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, then the Black man will think like a Black man, and he will feel for other Black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause Black people to stick together. And then at that point, you'll have a situation where when you attack one Black man, you are attacking all Black men. And this type of Black thinking will cause all Black people to stick together. And this type of thinking also will bring an end to the brutality inflicted upon Black people by white people. And it is the only thing that will bring an end to it. No federal court, state court, or city court will bring an end to it. It's something that the Black man has to bring an end to himself. When Black people wake up and become intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, as other humans are intellectually independent enough to think for themselves, then the Black man will think like a Black man, and he will feel for other Black people. And this new thinking and feeling will cause Black people to stick together.
All right. I had to. It was so nice. I had to play it twice, family. So this isn't new information. So I just want to make sure that we are reiterating some of the lessons of our ancestors, family. Now, this was over a half a century ago. And so why we still kind of haven't come to some of these realizations as a people, it's in some ways dumbfounding. All right. And so, let's make sure that we are actually learning and adhering to the lessons, so we are not doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. Let me come to Sister Empress, see if there's any addition before I go to the next clip.
Well, absolutely. And, the proof is now going to be in the productivity, not the pudding. And what I mean by that is, again, on Sunday when we hold our We Charge Genocide 21 session and Ubuntu segment, we're going to kind of convey what some of the We Charge Genocide actions are, some of the demands, because now as we move forward, our focus is to educate the masses, to do stuff on the grassroots level. A lot of our people don't know anything about reparations, or very little. They definitely don't know the international kinds of interactions and things, or history. And so we're committed now to make certain that we do that we help the masses of our people to really not only become more familiar, but more engaged, more involved, more aware, so that their voices are actually heard. We're really tired of our people being sheeple. We know that there needs to be leadership to a degree, for lack of a better word, because we have to be organized. So we do have to have representation that can speak for the collective. But the nonsense that we're seeing now is just ridiculous. So again, on Sunday, we invite everyone to join us at 7:00, and you will hear us talk more about 2 new units that are being put in place. We really started implementing it last year for Malcolm X100, and now we're bringing it forward to the next level. And it is the National Association for the Advancement of Black People. Now, we've been talking about this for like over 5 years, waiting to see who would step up. Because folks talk about their dismay or how they're not feeling the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And we get that. I mean, not just because they call themselves colored people, but because of the behaviors that we generally see all across the board. And you had to know, I mean, these folks have been in existence for 100 years, but have not really changed a lot of the mentality. So rather than to keep complaining, we said, okay, let them do that. Why are we wasting time with going back and forth with that? So we're bringing forward the National Association for the Advancement of Black People. And for those who don't like the word black, then you go ahead and set up your own thing. All right, it's real simple. Don't be trying to tell us what to do, because we have a real clarity on some things that some folks might not ever understand, but that's a whole nother conversation. Okay, the other component you're going to hear us talk about is the Black Anti-Defamation League. National Black Anti-Defamation League. Why? For years, other people have done whatever they wanted to us, say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and we will rally, we will have conversations, but nothing in place to fight back. Well, that's about to end, because our National Black Anti-Defamation League is rising up. It is geared to, you mess with us, you're going to talk about us. We're not just sitting around and just allowing it. We have to fight back legally and in every other kind of way possible. Because until we do, people will continue to take their foot and place it where they want it. So at least let's act like we have some intelligence and capability of self-defense and courage. People should not be allowed, even though we know freedom of speech and all of that, we get that. But if other people can come together and not allow you to attack the people who are representing them, how are we doing that? Oh, I know how. Reactionarily. No. We need to be organized with our own lawyers, with our own monies, with our own media, with our own capability to campaign, etc., etc. That's what other folks do to protect the people that they feel are representing them adequately, and we're not. So that ends. Again, come Sunday, you'll hear more about it. For those who are interested, you can now join. We've gone beyond the conversations now. Join in some kind of way, shape, fashion. We need soldiers. And when I say soldier, I'm talking about communications, education, information. We need soldiers. I yield.
Hey, I say. Think for that. This is Sister Empress. Let's go to our next clip. Hailing up. Stay free. Shining. And the Mark has
Anti-Semitic. Many of the things that I've read about you, and you've made it mention a couple of times about the Jews and everything, and I'm wondering if you are personally anti-Semitic.
No. How can I be anti-Semitic when the Arabs are half the Muslim world is Semitic? Because anti-Semitic is the anti-Arab and anti-everything else. No, I think that in this country, there's one mistake that the Jews make. They put themselves in a position where whenever anybody gives an objective analysis of the role that they play, they defend themselves by accusing you of being anti-Semitic. And a Negro is not anti-Semitic when he says that the man who's exploiting him in his community is white, because it is a white man who owns all the stores. Now, it's evident that these whites who own these stores are Jewish. If it's an accident, then the fact that he says the Jew on the corner is exploiting me isn't an anti-Semitic statement. It's just more descriptive of the man who's exploiting him.
Are you anti-Semitic?
And all right. Let me stop right there. And this is some of the tactics that are utilized when it comes to being able to identify those who have wronged us, or those who are responsible for aspects of disenfranchisement, okay, aspects of oppression. And so, that's one of those, as Sister Empress was indicating, being able to develop the Black Anti-Defamation League, there are things in place that other peoples, other ethnicities are able to utilize in order to support them, right? And in order to be able to rally and galvanize people against the defamation of their people and their character, their culture, etc. All right, so this is one of the strategies that is used as a deflective measure and means for folks not to take accountability or responsibility for their actions. All right, we're looking at some of these aspects and being able to again develop things that will help to protect us, our people, our culture, and to prevent the defaming of our populace. Okay, stop my screen share there, and let us keep it moving. Sister, do you have anything to add on that?
Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, I mean, hey, there it is. Again, we can talk all day and night about certain things, but until we are ready to actually move on them, then it's just business as usual. And we can no longer do that. So again, for those who are interested, Brother Muba will give you contact information shortly, and reach out to us. We are now organizing in a manner that is going to be, again, not only strategic, but precise, on point. And for those that dare to struggle, we certainly shall win.
Indeed, Ashe. All right, let me come to the next clip, family, and let's get some more of these pearls. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Very pertinent question that our dear ancestor, our dear brother, our shining Black Prince asked. And, this is some of the things that should be recognized as it pertains to our psychology, as the brother minister had mentioned earlier, about us recognizing, seeing ourselves in one another and being able to think critically on how we need to protect and respect one another in order so that others are not able to disrespect and attack us. All right. So you come for one of us, you're coming for us all, and all for one and one for all. All right, let's get into it.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
All right. Very important question, family. Who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you that the Caucasian ice was colder? All right. We have to recognize, these forms of indoctrination that we've undergone, these forms of programmation, okay, the forms of degradation, and the psychosis that a lot of us have inherited, all right, through the aspects of going through these hells in America, in North America, and under this tyrannical regime ever since the development of the United States, right? And our introduction through the aspects of the transatlantic slave trade and the period of enslavement, 400 plus years. All right, knowing that also, again, of course, I have to give credit to those individuals who were already here as Black folks, as African descended people, already trans-navigated the entire globe. So there was indeed, and in fact, Black folks everywhere, everywhere, family, everywhere on this entire planet, you will find Black people. All right. As a matter of fact, in a lot of places, the majority are Black folks, but those who are in control of the wealth, of the natural resources, and so forth, are actually the minority, but they are in control of the majority. All right, of the wealth. All right. So we really had to make sure we're mindful of this, and be able to strategize how we're going to take back control. All right, bring about that ma'at, bring about that balance. Okay. Let me come to Sister Empress for any additional on that before we get into our next clip. I got a couple more to play before we get ready to close out for this evening.
So the only thing that I'm going to add is kind of in a different direction. And when Brother Malcolm says, well, who told us to hate ourselves? So one of the upcoming, or some of the upcoming sessions that we're going to have with our sisters are we going a bit too far in maybe mimicking other, wanting to look like other women? Have we kind of got kind of like really gone somewhere else with this? And I say it because when I'm out, I'm very observant, particularly of our people, and I see our women. And there's certain gestures now that I'm seeing that I have not seen over the years. Other women, particularly Caucasian women, had a tendency to use their hand to kind of flick their hair, right? And this was indicative of them. This was just something that you kind of would see them often do. It was part of their whatever. And even when we had long hair, and we certainly did, many, I mean, growing up had long braids and all that, but we never flicked it. We never, routinely, ongoingly, or whatever, take your hair or your head and flick it back. And well, I'm seeing it a lot right about now. The flicking and the, of your hand and the head. These are not characteristics that were us. And I want people to look at the psychological damage and other kind of inferences that are happening, oftentimes without people even realizing it. The other thing I pay close attention to is our women over the years, and my mom was a beautician, so I'm very familiar with hair. Believe me, like good and pro and con. And so, there was always dye being used. Sometimes a little red. My mom didn't do the blonde thing. She never did that one. But definitely, little red, little tint or whatever. But now our women not only are using braids to put these colors in, they're literally using dyes. And I'm not talking about just highlight or, cover-ups or tints. I'm saying literally blue, purple, yellow, orange, pink, dyed hair. Family, and I'm not trying to, offend anyone. We ain't never do that stuff. We never did that. I mean, what statement is that really making? I'm all about creativity. I'm all about self-expression. But are we not going a little too far with some of this? And what is the statement that we're making? What statement are you making with orange and purple and green, bright orange, purple, green, red? yellow. What statement is that to make for Black folks? Anyway, these are conversations that we now must have because we got young daughters coming up. And I don't want to have to, anyway. So when Brother Malcolm said, who taught us to hate ourselves? I think we're seeing some forms of hatred, y'all. I yield.
All right. Thank you for the addition, Sister Empress. All right, I got a couple more videos. I'm gonna kind of come rapid fire, and then we're getting ready to close out for this evening, family. And thank you all for your continued support. All right, to this clip here.
Well, that's something of an argument, but I've heard speeches made by some of the people of your group. I think I've heard you make speeches. It seemed to me that you were advocating what I would have to describe, I think, as violence to meet the serious injuries that have been done your people, with which I totally agree.
I don't call that violence. I don't in any way encourage Black people to go out and initiate acts of aggression indiscriminately against whites. But I do believe that the Black man in the United States and any human being, anywhere, is well within his right to do whatever is necessary, by any means necessary, to protect his life and property, especially in a country where the federal government itself has proven that it is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of those human beings.
Well, that's
Thanks. All right. So, it's very interesting when folks talk about violence, right? When you're taking the defensive posture, but the individuals who are initiating the violence are never held under any scrutiny. So, this double standard and, this false narrative that is utilized, all right, that we find often, which is, again, why it's so important for us to have independent media. We have to be able to control our own image and narrative so we can push back against this nonsense, as we see our ancestor did very eloquently. Okay, this is the astuteness, the level of maturity, and the level of communication that we have to master. Be able to just smack this stuff, to swat this stuff very easy. All right, bat it down. All right, because a lot of these these arguments that are being waged are nonsensical. Okay. Let me to our next clip. A series that I'm gonna come back to Sister Empress for any commentary. Okay. Interesting addition there, my sister J. Let me read that real quick. When I had hot hair, I was out of my head. The crown and how it tells a story most times. Just being honest. Thank you for speaking to the Empress. All right, thank you for that addition. Hey, all right, a lot of this deals with aspects of identity crisis and about who and what we are. All right, so thank you for based on that and being able to share your some of your experience today. Let me share my screen one more again.
No, I don't worry. I tell you, I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything. No.
Play it again.
Don't worry. I tell you, I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything. No, I don't.
Okay. No fear. We got to be fearless, family. We have to be fearless. Okay. All right. We all have to leave this planet. Nobody's going to make it off of this earth alive. So the question is, what will you do with your life? How will you utilize this life force? All right. knowing that it is finite. The statement, the famous quote, I would rather die on my feet than on my knees. You got one life. How you going to use it? All right, you soak in the corner and curl up in the ball, or are you going to put your back against the wall and brawl it out? All right, let me go ahead and share. Flip family. Go ahead and share my screen. You know that Brother Malcolm said,
I don't in any way encourage black people to go out and initiate acts of aggression indiscriminately against whites. But I do believe that the black man in the United States and any human being anywhere is well within his right to do whatever is necessary by any means necessary. Protect his life and property, especially in a country where the federal government itself has proven that it is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of those human beings. I don't in any way.
all right. The main aspect, the point of that, I wanted to highlight was by any means necessary, family. I thought that was another clip, but still highlighting that factor. By any means necessary. All right, let me come before I play this next clip. Let me come back to Sister Empress for any additions. Play this last clip.
No, I mean, for me, Brother Malcolm, he's known for a phrase that is said, make it plain. And he does that. So, there's not, for me, in certain regards, there's not a whole lot more to say. I mean, he said it. He said it numerous times, different places, different audience. And so, but the message is basically the same. So for me at this stage of the game, I'm always glad to hear his voice, his words. It's always inspiring. But for some of us now, it's about picking up and doing the work, the assignment. He gave us instructions. He gave us information. What are we doing with it? We can't just commemorate and celebrate his born day or his transition day. It has to be about what of his work, of his legacy, of his teachings are we actually doing?
Absolutely. All right. Oh yeah, and I found that clip that I was looking for because these words they just echo. So I gotta make sure I played this.
We declare our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
I gotta let that rock one more time.
Right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
You're damn right. Okay. All right, let me get to our next clip, family. And we almost at our close for this evening. All right, let's keep it moving.
The most respected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. And as Muslims, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to respect our women and to protect our women. And the only time a Muslim really gets real violent is when someone goes to molest his woman. We will kill you for our woman. I'm making it plain, yes. We will kill you for our woman. We believe that if the white man will do whatever is necessary to see that his woman gets respect and protection, then you and I will never be recognized as men until we stand up like men and place the same penalty over the head of anyone who puts his filthy hands out to put in the direction of our women.
Okay, family. So, I don't know what some folks is, thinking about or advocating. I hear a lot of the gender wars, the alpha male and the independent, businesswoman and boss lady and all this other stuff. The divide and conquer methodology once again. The Willie Lynchship in effect once again. But you heard it from the mouth of ancestor El Malik El Shabazz, our shining black prince. This is the job of the man, of men, okay? And this is what is in part of our duty and responsibility as men. So we are failing in that. We are, serving up our women on a platter. All right. And this is one of the reasons why we are not upheld as respectable men. Because what we are allowing to happen to our women and girls, they are spotting that weakness and taking advantage of it. Okay. And being able to further put a wedge between the black man and the black woman, to put a further wedge and being able to disassemble the black family, which of course dilapidates or deteriorates the black community and subsequently topples or does not allow the further development of the black nation. And we're falling for it hook, line, and sinker. Okay, folks need to wake the hell up. All right, so message to the black man. All right, now I got this last. We're going to do a little bit of ethereal. Matter of fact, before we do that, let me come to Sister Empress before we come to our last closing clips, which is going to be a little bit of ethereal inspiration. You have anything to add on that, Sister Empress? Okay. All right, doesn't look like it. All right, let's keep it rolling. All right, let me share my screen one more again. And we're going to get into a little bit of ethereal inspiration before we get up out of here. Okay. Oh, I got that. Let me bring it back. Let me bring it back. Get the volume right. Here we go.
I am woman, I am fearless, I am sexy, I'm divine, I'm unbeatable, I'm creative, honey, you can get it right. I am feminine, I am woman, I am fearless, I am sexy, I'm divine.
And the caption says, women are Mother Nature in human form. Disrespect her and the abundance will never flow to you. Okay? So let's make sure we realize and recognize, family. All right.
Ashe.
One more. This is going to close us out, cap us out for this evening. A little bit of ethereal inspiration continued. All right, let's go to this next clip. All right, a little bit of mindfulness and meditation. All right, a higher elevation frequency.
know what used me? I was used.
How did you make your money? Being tested, being a human.
I gotta bring it back. I gotta make sure I close on that note. Let me bring it back one more time, because the frequency. All right, family, want to end on a positive note, and there we have it with ethereal inspiration. Who better than a black sister? You know, I seen that clip. I was listening to the frequency, and I was immediately relieved. All right, as the video said, calm your nervous system, be still, and I was. Okay, I don't know who better than it could bring that type of vibe and energy than my most beautiful black sister. All right, with that being said, let me come to Sister Empress for final thoughts and closing remarks before we close out this evening.
All right. Well, again, another incredible Ethereal Journey special edition. And certainly looking forward to next week. And family, we just hope that some of what you've heard tonight will inspire you. If not everything, but some things, and not just inspire you, but literally puts the fire underneath you to get doing some things, some additional things. We know that you all are doing things, needless to say, but I dare say it's time to up the ante. It's time to raise the bar, and we've got to do more. It's just that simple. So, again, Brother Moomba, great segment, great session again. And again, we invite everyone to join us tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, for our new day, Resurrection Liberation. And I made an error. I said this was our 19th year. It's actually our 20th year. April was the 20th year of our doing New Day. So, as you can tell, 20 years. Okay. So we keeping it moving. So again, 10 o'clock tomorrow night. We have some very interesting topics for you as well, and a special guest. So tune in, and of course Sunday, the We Charge Genocide National Black Human Rights Project Mbutu session will be in, and again we'll be giving you some very, very important information at that point as well, 7 o'clock. And hey, have a good weekend.
All right. Excellent. Outstanding. Yes, indeed. With that being said, you can get further information, family. You can email nationalmwm@aol.com. Again, that's nationalmwm@aol.com. You can also email me at powerman2282@gmail.com. Again, that's powerman2282@gmail.com. You can also text 267-636-3802. That number again is 267-636-3802 for additional information on any of the initiatives, programs, memberships, etc. All right, family. So tap in, tune in, continue to get engaged. Much appreciated for your support and for joining us this evening for this special edition of the Ethereal Journey Evolution. With that being said, we're getting ready to close out, family, for this evening. And I want to give thanks, of course. Well, first of all, let me give my triple salutes once again to our ancestor, our shining black prince, ancestor Malcolm El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, his wonderful works and legacy. Hopefully, I can do just a percentage, a fraction of what our ancestors were able to do to help to push us forward down into the aspects of further growth and development, evolution, and elevation. All right. That being said, I want to give thanks first and foremost to the Most High Creator Creatress. I want to give thanks to the ancestors and the elders, those who have shed blood, sweat, and tears and paved the way to allow us to be here today. I want to thank you all. Thank you for your support, family. Thank you for your time, energy, and effort, dedication, determination, and discipline. It is much appreciated. All right, I bid you all truth, justice, peace, love, freedom, power, prosperity, protection, patience, and divinely principled purpose. I want to say, let us continue to strategize, organize, and mobilize, family. And finally, Pamoja Tutashinda, which means together we will win. Until next time, family, peace and love.
Here, the centuries of loneliness were to end. Your collection of Leonardo da Vinci masterpieces, Mr. Flint. They appear to have been recently painted on contemporary canvas with contemporary materials.
Then, age, death, the taste of dust. Do you understand?
You wanted a perfect, ultimate woman. As brilliant, as immortal as yourself. Your mate for all time.
Merkaba master. I charter demons to other worlds, drive devils to plaster. Rush them to hell, breathing asthma. Play Satan on gurneys next to Hermes. Send them off to their journey to Cleopatra. They read those chapters, egos captured. The Leo laughter, neoplasma. Run through my veins in this matrix, and my basement became a plaza. And now I'm in the Sky Lounge with negative spirit hackers. Build on math and we read the chapters. Observe through our windows at the quiet disasters. Riots at NASA, marches, gender pride, freedom rights for the masses. Till we do away with first and second citizen classes. Religion is backwards, trying to comprehend to the pastor. This gym is like Jasper. Either we all live and strive for the youth to survive, or it all ends with the rapture. Forget waiting on the man, I'm making a plan. And for the ages of false statements, I'm taking a stand. Start an investigation on Satan with a cross in my hand. Make him plead guilty, now face the jury. We're in the courts of I am. If I could just vanish from off the planet, like magic, become caught from granite. Days mathematics is understanding.
Hey, hey, did you hear? This is the perfect place to disappear. Oh, hey, did you hear? This is the perfect place to disappear.
A billion stories in the naked city. Ghost told me that his best friend needs a kidney. We froze, reminisce of Tiffany in the cold. Open whiskey from the 20s, in the memory. Sympathy made the angels play a symphony. Said he could've had a scholarship. Toured different colleges, now he's out of it. Faded away slowly on dialysis. His name remained anonymous, but here's my acknowledgements. Street legends and hood guards. Kingdom fall into a mirage. Ghetto depression sets in. Then we play sweet and cigars. A child has difficulties concentrating. From where he lives, he sees his promises fading. He sees his pops gone, his mom's is aging. She trying to stay strong for a church congregation. And meanwhile, a kid named Rico was the coke king. A lot of siblings are the dope fiends, hope you scream. A lot of children with broken dreams, homes were clean. The most extreme, you got rich and what you sold to queens. Look what you did to Josephine. And Ebony is unheavenly. The devil's ready with open wings. As Lucifer uses love and his youthful mug. Then his blood on the cobra's fangs.
Hey, hey, did you hear? This is the perfect place to disappear. This is the perfect place to disappear.
Through the mid.